So I'm Lawana,
Nice to
and
meet you.
I'm going to let you introduce yourself so everyone who gets the chance to see this will know who you are.
Okay. So my name is Cathy Alvarez. I have been a nurse for over 20 years. And today we're going to talk about Replenish at Work, which is a company that myself and my coworker Pam have started. She also is a fellow nurse, and it's all about supporting nurses and either other healthcare professionals in finding moments of stillness and a little bit of peace at work so that we can hopefully combat stress and burnout.
Oh, that's
Thank you for having
wonderful.
me.
Oh, we're excited. We're all very excited. I'm glad that Andy found you. So I'm going to tell you that I've talked to nurses in lots of different areas over this past year. And I always begin with the first question that's always the same for everyone, which is, how did we get from Cathy, the little girl, to Cathy RN? Where did that path start or that dream begin? And what was the path like for you?
So I actually always knew I wanted to be a nurse. When I was about 5 years old, my grandmother came to live with us because she had broken her leg and she was living in our basement. And I just like catered to her every need. I was getting her food and helping her out. And she always called me her little nurse. And it was like always a path that I felt like I really like this. I really like caring for people. So I went to Elmira College in upstate New York and I got my BSN, and I started my career at Yale New Haven Hospital as a cardiac step down nurse. And so that was where my career kind of began. And I found myself about 5 years into my career completely burning out. And it wasn't just from working as a cardiac nurse. I found out that I was just giving to everybody, as we typically do as nurses.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working nights. My grandfather was on hospice. I was taking care of him as I was coming off nights, and I was giving to everybody. And I was like, I don't think I could do this anymore. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think this is sustainable. And I thought about leaving nursing.
Wow.
Yeah, and I found a program actually on holistic nursing. And so the whole foundation of that is you have to care for yourself in order to care for other people. And I was really mind blown by that. I was like, oh my God, that really makes a lot of sense. Like, I'm giving, and I'm not filling up my own cup. And so once I really thought about that, I started caring for myself and making myself a priority, both at home and at work. And it really changed my nursing career. And so I became board certified as a holistic nurse. And the trajectory of my career led me to being in management. And so I was an assistant nurse manager and was promoting self-care for my staff, and then now have moved into education. And it's kind of been my new career goal, is to really promote self-care practices for nurses.
That's amazing. And the fact that you were able to find a healing for yourself, because I'm sure you'll agree that the culture of nursing in general is not really geared towards self-care.
Right.
You mentioned working night shift. I worked night shift for 10 years, and I worked in labor and delivery, so there were times when you didn't get to go to the bathroom, you might not get to eat. So how
Right.
did that, and for those that are going into nursing, the nursing students that will be watching this, can you we often hear the term burnout,
Mhm.
but can you kind of speak to what that actually looks like when they're going through it? Because I think sometimes people feel like, oh, I love nursing, I'll never get burned out, like we both did. So what
Right.
does that look like for those who might be going in?
Yeah. So for me, it looked like not being able to sleep at night before going into the next shift, because I might have had like not a great day at work, and then I was going back the next day. So the anticipation of, oh my God, I had a really bad day, I don't know what it's going to look like,
Mhm.
not really being able to sleep, um, waking up in the morning. And it was almost like a panicky feeling, like, oh my
Mhm.
God, like I have to go into work. Oh my God, what is this going to look like? Leaving work, just feeling like complete emotional and physical
Mhm.
exhaustion, which, is common. I used to come home after working 12 hours and I'd say to my husband, oh my God, I haven't gone to the bathroom all day. And he's like, what is the matter with you? I'm like, I can't go to the bathroom if somebody's having chest pain. Like, you just don't,
Exactly.
like it just, And so it was just really this emotional and physical state of just pure exhaustion. And it was really a trying time. And it's funny because we talk about self-care a lot in nursing, and it's come about. And I've been teaching self-care for probably, 15 years. And every time I teach nurses about self-care, like I'll ask them, what do you do during the day to take care of yourself? And the number 3 things that every nurse says is I try to eat, try to drink, and I try to go to the bathroom. And you can relate, right?
Yes.
Nurse.
Yes.
And I will always say, like, are those really self-care practices? They're actually basic human needs. If we look at Maslow's hierarchy,
yes,
right? That's like at the bare bottom with shelter and basic human needs. And as nurses, we're like, we are thinking, I have the greatest day if I eat a meal.
Yeah, it does feel good if you actually get to go to the bathroom, because I can remember going into a C-section. In fact, I remember nurses telling me when I got to the floor, if they ever call a C-section, make sure that you go to the bathroom first because you don't know when you'll get out to pee. And I thought to myself, what? This is, but I mean, that's the thing. You just, and having lunches that are interrupted because a code comes and then it's like, boom, I got to leave the food. Yeah,
Yeah, so that is actually pretty eye-opening whenever I talk to nurses and I teach programs, having them realize like I'm not meeting my basic needs during the day. It's no wonder why I'm burning out and why I'm stressed. We're kind of running from a place of depletion, which is not good, but that's kind of,
Yeah. And your family, did they recognize all that was going on as far as the burnout too?
Yeah, my husband definitely did. He was like, something needs to change. Like, you seem like you're a little miserable. I'm like, I know, like, I'm not, you're coming home, you're dehydrated, working 12-hour shifts is exhausting. You're on your feet all day long. And that would be another thing I say to like new nurses coming in, like the physical exhaustion of being on your feet. You're not used to when you're in school because we have clinicals and clinicals are shorter, right? So it's like the physical strain on your body plays a toll as well when you first come in.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
So when you went in to do the training as a holistic nurse, now I will tell you that is not something I had heard until I went onto your website. So I'm always excited to learn new things. What was the focus of that? And what did the training or certification process look like for those who might even consider doing that themselves?
Yeah, so there is an organization called the American Holistic Nurses Association. So you can look at that website. And I actually went through a program called the Birch Tree Center for Healthcare Transformation. And they did continuing education to give you enough credits to sit for the American Holistic Nurses Association. But now there's different programs through, if you go to that website, that you can get continuing ed to sit for it. But really, the foundation of all of it is self-care. So the first session we went to was really related to self-care. Are you caring for yourself? What are the barriers? Just kind of giving you that foundation and the permission to say, I'm a priority.
I love that.
So that was kind of like the foundation. And once you make yourself a priority, you can show up more authentically for your patients and have caring connections and foster their well-being, because it all comes from ourselves first. So a lot of the foundation of holistic nursing surrounds different theorists. So Jean Watson, with her clinical Caritas, and Martha Rogers, and how, our energy affects our surroundings. So if I show up and my energy is not in a good place because maybe things happened at home, how is that affecting my environment, both with my coworkers? How is that going to affect my interactions with my patients? So a lot of it, the whole foundation is self-care, and everything kind of spins off from that.
That's amazing. I'm just happy to learn about this particular area being an opportunity for nurses. I have to tell you that when I went onto your website and I, from the moment that I open the page, there's just a feel of calm, of restoring, of just the colors, the everything. So you all really did a beautiful job with that, because the space is very inviting and
Right.
there's a lot of graceful kind of feel there that I really love. One of the things that I saw that was mentioned was a term that I hadn't heard, which is micro restorative practices. Can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about what those might look like? Because I think what happens is this, Cathy, we hear self-care and we think, I'm going to go get a massage. I'm
Oh
going
my
to light
God.
some candles and
Mhm.
drink a glass of wine at the end of
Right.
the shift. And
Right.
that's my self-care. And this
Right.
is not what this is.
Right. And I think that self-care term has gotten a little watered down because
Mhm.
think about it. Yeah, this is great. You're going to go get a massage and you feel good in that moment. But the next day you
Right.
wake up and you're like, oh my God, did I really get a massage? Like, I don't
Mhm.
really feel that well. Right. And so, Pam and I, both being nurses, recognize that to really take a long, sustainable break is very unlikely in a clinical setting.
Mhm.
You and I know from working in a
Yes.
hospital setting, it's very far between,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so we coined the term micro restorative, meaning how can we find short moments to kind of slow down during our shift to restore, to replenish ourselves so we can sustain caregiving. And so micro restorative means something that's less than 10 minutes, because we know we don't have more than 10 minutes, right?
Mhm.
Something that's less than 10 minutes that gets you into a place where you can restore. So it may be just slowing down and maybe, oh, I realize my back is bothering me because I'm pushing the wow and it's hurting me, or I'm stretching over my patients. So
Mhm.
maybe I take, 5 minutes to just kind of stretch, to check in with myself and see how I'm feeling. Or
Mhm.
maybe I can sit in the break room and just close my eyes for 5 minutes and just kind of get into a space so
Mhm.
that I can restore. Maybe it's I step outside to get
Mhm.
a breath of fresh air because I'm inside for 12 hours. So, how can we slow down? And we like to say to seek clarity, connection, and compassion.
Mhm.
So slowing down to gain clarity on how we're feeling and what do we need, because we know during the day that's very hard to do. We're just going, 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 and we don't
Mhm.
even realize sometimes that we have cotton mouth because we're so dehydrated,
Mhm.
or that our back is bothering us, or that we really need to go to the bathroom. So how can we slow down to get clarity on how we're feeling and what do we need? Connecting to ourselves so
Mhm.
that we can be more compassionate with ourselves, because self-compassion is so important, and that we can give compassionate care for others. So that's the term micro restorative, slow, simple practices that are short but very impactful.
Right. And so in a 12-hour shift, that could make a really big difference if you can just be
Absolutely.
still, because sometimes you don't get that moment to even really be still. And sometimes
Right.
12-hour shifts are really like 14, 16
Oh
hour
my God.
shifts.
No. And then you're
Yeah.
driving home too, right? So
Mm-hmm.
then you're driving home in the car, and then you get home. And I don't know about you, when I used to work, because I work both days and nights, you get home, you shovel food in, you go to sleep, you wake up, if you're working two
Mm-hmm.
days in a
Yeah.
row,
And you got to
it's
go
like,
back.
right. It's
Right.
very hard and
Right.
it's very
It
challenging.
is.
So, how can we find short moments? And the thing that I love about how Pam and I approach this is it's individualized.
Right.
So, it's not saying like, hey, go do yoga. If you don't like yoga, you're not going to do it. So, there
Yeah.
has to be an intention behind it. Like maybe your micro restorative practice is slowing down to eat mindfully and not shovel the food in
Right.
5 minutes when you finally have a moment.
Right.
So it's individualized and personalized for you and what you need to be
Right.
well, because only myself like I am the authority of my own health.
Right.
Only I know what I need to be well. So I love that because we're both nurses, we understand that it's not one size fits all.
This is
And
true.
sometimes a lot of programs, we're doing a lot, right, in organizations now nationally, because we know well-being is so important.
Mm-hmm.
But we may have like, okay, you could do yoga, or we'll do some meditations, or we'll do this. And if it's not important to you, it's really not sustainable, right? It's like a New Year's resolution.
Right.
You're like,
Yeah,
oh,
everybody's in the gym till March and then we're all back at home.
exactly. Because if you don't find the why, like,
Yeah,
why do you want to do it? And you don't have that intrinsic motivation, it's not
exactly.
sustainable.
Exactly.
So
That's
our
true.
approach is always finding well-being looks like to you. What do you want? What do you need to be well? And then we can kind of individualize these practices for you.
Exactly. Well, I think about how does this look, even as a manager. I know you mentioned that when you worked in the unit you were managing, what were some of the things that you were able to do for your staff? Because I think that sometimes nurses in management, they know that the staff is approaching this burnout level. And we have to say that now with COVID, I mean, because you are already in this place of restorative unitness for nursing. We needed that anyway
Oh,
beforehand.
God,
And
absolutely.
now with COVID, wow, we're at this space where it's just on a different level. How would we, or what are some ways or thoughts surrounding how we'd be able to do that even unit wide with small steps?
So I think a big thing, there was a lot of studies that came out during COVID, and organizational stressors are kind of a big thing. And there was 5 things that were said in an article by Shanna Felt. I don't know if you know them, but she is out of, I believe, University of Ohio, around that area, a physician. And it was, hear me. So are we hearing the concerns that our staff are saying? Protect me. Do they have what they need to be safe? We know in the height of COVID with PPE and all of that, like, so do they have what they need to be safe? Prepare me. Do you have what you need? Are we supporting you through these challenges of short staffing and things like that? Support me. Are we showing appreciation for staff? I've talked to a lot of nurses recently, and they're just saying, I just want to know that I'm appreciated for the work I'm doing. I'm working so short staffed. I'm doing my best. Like, just a thank you is sometimes all we need. And then the last one is care for me. Are you being cared for? So I think as managers and leaders, if we can address those kind of organizational stressors, and it's going to be different every unit because every unit has its unique needs, but really just kind of checking in with the staff to say, are we hearing your concerns? Are we protecting what you want? Do you feel cared for? And then kind of individualizing what we can do on the unit. It's definitely so challenging right now.
Right.
We're working short everywhere. The patients are a lot sicker, right? We're trying to get them out of hospitals, but some of the long-term care facilities and things like that are strapped. It's hard. It's definitely a challenge. And I think just letting the staff know that I am here to listen, and without judgment, because some of the things you're probably going to hear are maybe not what you want to hear, but we want to have that safe environment, where staff feel like they can come and address and speak about their concerns in a constructive way. Because what I found being in leadership is that usually the staff have the answers to what they need. And they have very good suggestions as to what may work. And so I think being able to listen and then maybe implement some of those things can be very helpful.
Yes, you're exactly right. And I think, what you're talking about as far as nursing, we feel even more as women, just because with women, you are the caregiver at work, and then you come home and you're the caregiver at home, so there's no space really in there for the self-care portion. So can some of the things that you're teaching even to be done in work be extended for moms or folks that are?
Absolutely. It's for anybody really. Because think about it, even teachers, my husband's a teacher, and he was like, these micro-restorative practices would be great for teachers. Because think about it, anybody that's working right now, we're all working and trying to do more with less. So even though I am a nurse, Pam is a nurse, we focus on healthcare professionals. The whole intent of the micro-restorative practices are to make things applicable to your individual day and something that you can do to restore. We all need 5 minutes.
Yeah,
like, how
we
can
do.
we find, and I mean, even myself, I teach this, but there's days where I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind, right? So what can I do very quickly? A big micro-restorative practices that have really taken on with nursing in particular have been my micro-restorative mindful Purelling. Because think about how many times during the day nurses wash their hands, right? Or they use the hand sanitizer, right? So, because sometimes when I talk about self-care, nurses are like, I can't add another thing to my day.
Right.
I just want to get out on time. I can't add another thing. So the mindful hand washing or hand sanitizing, the Purell, is something that you're already doing. So, how can you, hit the hand sanitizer before you go in the room and really just kind of like close your eyes and just take a breath and really just allow the hand sanitizer to just sink in and dry and check in with yourself before you're approaching a patient's room.
I'm going to tell you that's gold right there. Do you hear me? That is gold. Because
Right.
I mean, how many, right before just that little second before and the thing that would be really simple, even because I think about our clinic, okay, the hand sanitizer things that we have are inside the patient's room.
Right.
And how nice it would be if we just had one outside. So that way you can have that moment when you're not in anybody's presence, just right there. That's amazing.
Yeah, it allows you to slow down.
Yeah.
And it allows yourself, when you're approaching your patient, to be present.
Wow.
Because we've all, I guarantee you, people are falling out of bed, they're climbing out of bed, and you Purell and you rush in, even sometimes you're busy, you're not present. And then the patient understands that you're also not present. So it also affects the interaction with our patients. So if we could just take a moment to kind of just slow down, and that takes a minute.
Yeah, it doesn't take, but those little minutes throughout the day would really add up. And as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking because, right now, social media is a connection point for everyone. It became even more so a lifeline for some people during the pandemic because it was all we had.
Right.
And are you all doing any social media kind of things? And the reason I ask is because little tidbits like this, in a Instagram reel or a TikTok, whatever, could travel miles to really, Yeah.
Yeah. So in the very first height of COVID, we were putting out short micro restorative practices. So there are some out there as well. And we're continuing to kind of build on that and work through. Recently, we've kind of taken a little pause intentionally, Pam and I, because we were doing a lot of education and professional development. And what we've realized as nurses working in the healthcare environment right now is that professional development is not necessarily what we need now as nurses. We actually need more personalized support. So we've kind of done a little pause on the educational piece and have really started to focus on the coaching aspect of our business and really focusing on well-being check-ins.
Oh, wonderful.
So doing free, like 30-minute well-being check-ins with us.
Wait a minute. Did you say free?
I said free.
Let's repeat that it is free.
I did.
Because everybody, wow.
You need it. So if you're in that point where you feel like life is a little chaotic, we all feel like that, right? I mean, I don't think anyone in the country right now is not feeling the chaos, right?
Exactly.
So if you're feeling like, I don't even know what I need right now, we're here to support. So we're here to just check in. How are you feeling? Getting you into a space to kind of slow down and helping support you with tools. Helping you identify maybe what the stressors are in your life right now and how can we support you on a path to your own well-being that's individualized.
Well, that is just simply amazing because I'm going to tell you that nurses never needed it more than they do now. And I'm going to add you, I'm actually working on a podcast that's capturing some of the stories of the nurses that work frontline with COVID. And of course, at the end, you never want to hear someone's story without giving them some place to go with that. So at the end, we provide information on some free therapeutic resources that are there, but I would love to add, your website there as well, as a spot for them to come, because a big thing for us at Regis is care of the dear neighbor. And that's what a part of the founding principles, that the sisters had when they founded the college. And so for us to be able to, do that for nursing at a time when it's needed, it's definitely something that's very beneficial. So tell us your website, and then you said is it like a 30-minute type of phone call? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah. So our website is www.replenishmbs for mind, body, spirit, .com. And you can log on if you want to be on our newsletter. You'll get a free micro restorative practice sent directly to your email. So you get a free little well-being practice there. On our coaching page. So if you look at our coaching page, you'll see there's a link there. You can look and see kind of like my background, Pam's background, and you can choose, hey, I want to have a free well-being check-in with Cathy or Pam, because we both have a little bit of a different background. But all you do is just put it in your cart, and it's free. It's a well-being check-in. We do it virtual via Zoom.
Oh, great.
There's a little self-assessment, so a little personalized like health inventory that we will send to you before we meet with you the first time, so you can kind of assess where you are at. And then we'll schedule a time that works for you, because we know as nurses, some people work nights, some people work days, some people just work weekends. So we have set up the website intentionally that you don't schedule it with us right away. We'll email you and set up a time that works for you, which I think is very helpful as nurses, because you may want to meet at 8:00 in the morning, and that would be fine for Pam and I, or some people are on the West Coast and some people are on the East Coast. So we will send you an email with the personalized health assessment that you can check for yourself. We'll set up some time. We'll meet up on Zoom, and we'll go over what you found were maybe opportunities that you would like to focus on your well-being, and areas that you feel like you're maybe doing really well in. All of our coaching kind of falls under Duke's Integrative Medicine Foundation. And so they have what's called a wheel of health. And there's a wheel of health, and encompassed in the wheel of health are different dimensions kind of self-care. So there's different things talking about the physical environment, like the space that you work in every day, is it conducive to your well-being? You know, and we know sometimes as nurses, you hear there's different smells, you hear the alarms going off, the lighting, right?
Yeah, sometimes you go home and you still hear it.
Right. So looking at different things like physical environment is one. Nutrition. So looking at our nutritional status, sleep. So rest is really important. Physical activity. So are we moving? Not necessarily saying that you need to be like a marathon runner, but are we having some type of movement throughout the day? And looking at like different things, your emotional well-being. So when we send you the assessment, you're actually looking at those categories and identifying like, oh, I feel like I might need more guidance here. And when we meet for that 30-minute well-being check-in, we can give you different tools to support that area that you want to focus on.
Great. Now, are you doing just nurses, anyone in healthcare, physicians, or who's your focus with?
So we're doing anyone in healthcare now.
Anyone in
we
healthcare.
Started off, as nurses, but we know.
because I can think of a lot of physicians that would really be glad to, have some things, that would be restorative for them as well.
Right.
Wow, this is amazing. And I will tell you also on the website, I saw that they have a nice nurse care package that's there that is very different than anything that I have seen. So if you have a nurse that has been very kind to you during the pandemic and you would like to give them something, you need to check that out, because I think it's something that you might enjoy yourself, because it looks really good. We
actually have a new winter bundle that will be coming out in a couple weeks. So be on the lookout for that. That one, we did a lot of pre-orders, but we will have ones available as well for the public. So we do have a nice winter bundle that's focusing a lot on rest. And restoration.
Yes, I almost think we need a hibernation almost this winter.
Exactly.
If we could, to try to restore. Well, this has just been what I love about these conversations, Cathy, is that there's so much for us to learn from each other. And there's so many ways that we can learn to take care of ourselves better and of each other better. We're very good at caring for the patients, but the compassion and the connection and clarity you talk about, we give to patients every day, but sometimes we don't realize we're worthy of those same things. So I have to tell you, the one thing I really love, and I love quotes. So on your website, as I read through all these things, I found a quote, and that's the quote that really spoke to me from your website. And it says, "The pearl is the oyster, and the oyster is at the bottom of the sea, so dive deep." And I think this conversation is an example of how deep we need to go for ourselves to be able to find what we have within ourselves to try to heal and to restore and to replenish ourselves. So I thank you for replenishing us this morning. And I definitely will be reaching out to you because I do want to add this resource to the end of my podcast as, something that people can reach out to. And hopefully you'll get other nurses that will do the same, because this is something we have to do to sustain ourselves and to really advance the profession so that we can be as healthy as the folks we take care of.
Absolutely.
So I
And
appreciate
I'm happy to share one of our micro restorative practices if that's helpful for you too. I can
Oh,
send you a
sure.
link to one
That
of
would
the
be
practices
amazing. Yeah, because
so that
even
after
with
this.
our students, they could use, the when we have meetings, because we do have virtual meetings each week with clinical groups. And I would love to pass it on to my faculty so that the students would know that these are some things to look for as they move forward. So thank you. That's such a generous thing. We
Yeah,
would
so
really love that.
I'll send you a little hyperlink because
Okay.
what we've done with some of these in the clinical settings and just we have little cards with QRs on it
Hmm.
so that nurses on the units can just scan the QR, open it up, and you
Wow.
can
And
get a
just do it.
practice.
Wow.
So
That's
I will definitely
amazing.
send you a link so that
Okay.
anyone viewing this or your students can absolutely have
And
access
we'll make
to
sure
one
it
of the
gets
practices.
added to Roger and Andy. Well, I don't know how the whole tech thing happens. That ain't
Okay.
me, but they will make sure that that happens so that it's there and they can get that link. What an amazing idea. Thank you so very much. It was so great to talk with you today.
Thank you so much
And
for
I
having
wish you
me.
well in your practice. And please let Pam know we really enjoyed hearing about everything that you're doing. And we certainly hope to get to talk to you again in better times when we've learned a little bit better
Absolutely.
how to take care of ourselves. Thanks again,
Absolutely.
Cathy. Have a great
Thank you.
day.